Today's topic: 7 New Year's financial resolutions that will work for you in 2026, and most importantly, how to stick to them. That's right, we're starting the year off with a topic that usually I like to tread lightly on because no one really likes resolutions, mostly because we fail at them. But today we're going to walk through 7 ways to revamp, add strength to your personal financial situation. We're going to use topics that are easy to follow, topics that have some behavioral backing to them. So maybe they're not as easy to fail on. But we're going to walk through 7 big ones today so that you can start your 2026 off on the right foot. And if you're watching this in other years, this will also transition very nicely to those years. But today we focus on 2026, so let's get into it. All right, before we hit the fun, if you're just getting to our channel for the first time, you can always subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, spread this New Year's resolution love to everyone else for 2026. Also, click on the bell icon to get a notification every time we release a new video, which we do weekly. And if you're looking for a great financial advising firm, we're pretty cool. You can also schedule right on our website at wealthkill.com your free introductory icebreaker call. That's it. That's my only pitch. Let's get into it. So, why do I tread lightly on resolutions? Well, first up, the main fact that we have 92% of resolutions fail by February 15th. That's right, about 6 weeks in to most of these resolutions, they're gone. That's from the University of Scranton, also right down the street from the one and only Dunder Mifflin. But most of the mistakes are, we make these vague notes. There's no systems. You have that shame spiral that can kick in. So whether it's financial stuff, let's say gym stuff, right? Physical fitness stuff. There's a lot of reasons why I don't love the term resolutions, but the goal today is to walk you through 7 that are not going to be in that 92% fail rate. Today, you become the 8%er. You are going to conquer these, and we're going to walk through all 7 of those. So let's get into it right away. First one of my go-to rules for all of our clients and anyone really that we speak to, any of our public speaking engagements, we always talk through this. But the goal of resolution number 1 is to pay yourself first. So this ideally is going to be set up through automation. Next week's video, we're actually going to get into budgeting. We're actually going to walk through a live budget, which will build on this topic. But paying yourself first. This can be in a lot of different capacities, but the 2 that always come to mind from my side of it is paying yourself first for specific items. Now, these items can be very large and long, right? Let's talk about retirement. Automating to whether that's your 401k, your 403b, your Roth IRA, 529 plans for the kids, your brokerage account. Set up that number first so that you are at least on track for your long-term goals. Now, in this in our script for this one, we noted 20%. So you're trying to essentially put away 20% before you ever get to the other spending needs. Now, this doesn't have to be all for retirement. This could be you redoing, rebulking, rebuilding your emergency fund. This could be other goals. This could be like, hey, we're taking a big family trip this summer. This could be, hey, we want to have, X amount of dollars in Junior's 529 plan. You can build a lot of goals here in this 20%. But the key is you're trying to get used to living off of 80% of the money that comes in, right? And that still needs to cover a lot of things, right? We can talk about housing, utilities, food, any of that. But you're trying to carve out that 20%. But if you can get in the habit of already funding your 401k, 403b, already funding your Roth. As soon as your paycheck hits, it goes right to your Roth for that month with the goal of maxing out. Now, that 80% that's left, we can start to actually build out your budget, which again, we'll cover that in even more detail next week. So resolution number 1 is pay yourself first. And if you're watching this, you're thinking, Chad, I already do that. Well, this would be a great time to revisit that number. Can you increase it? Can you shift those buckets around? For example, is your emergency fund fully funded? Does it look nice and healthy now? Well, maybe you can now direct what was going to that emergency fund to your brokerage account now. Or maybe you weren't maxing out your Roth. But number 1, pay yourself first. Resolution number 2. Again, next week we will cover budget in even more detail, but we listed this one here as the reverse budgeting rule. What does this mean? Well, it means that you are allowed to, this is where you carve out the fund money. So in this example, you can carve out a certain amount per month, per week, per paycheck that you can use for guilt-free spending. So this can also become a buildup, right? Maybe you don't have a certain amount in a certain month. Maybe you don't spend anything. Maybe you do a dry January in terms of our spending goals. And in that month, for example, you put that money aside. You don't have anything you want to spend it on, but you can carve it out. But you're going to try to reverse budget, reverse engineer an actual fund number. So resolution number one, we're saving towards, those bigger goals. Resolution number two, we're trying to carve out an amount that you have flexibility. It doesn't feel like you're, in a straitjacket when you think about budgeting. So for this second one, carve out a number, pick one number that you can really build around that's carved out as your fun number. All right, number three, we're going to call this the 52-week challenge. Now, this one actually went live on New Year's Day, but depending on where you pick this up, maybe it's 51, maybe it's 50, wherever you pick it up. You could even go into the following year, right? You could start a whole new 52-week set. But you're trying to set another number here. See how we love the term automation? You're trying to pick a number that you are going to carve out on a weekly basis. Maybe you want to do monthly. Let's just do weekly for this example that you set aside. And let me give you some fun examples here. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking, man, it would be really cool to have an extra $10,000 stashed away by this time next year. You know what that number is per week? It's $192 per week. Now, you might be sitting here thinking 10,000 is not, I'd like larger than 10,000. That's okay. Whatever your number is, take it divided by 52. That's your number. Just to kind of give you another sweet spot, about $100 per week would also hit right around 5,000. Technically 5,200 if you're challenging my math right now. But it was an odd number and I like 100. So even numbers are a lot easier to work with. So this is a separate challenge built into your resolution goals here. So you're trying to pick a number that you can just start to stash away as soon as you watch this video to hit a lump sum number at the end of the year. Whether you have a specific goal behind it or you just want to have some extra money or maybe you're rebulking the emergency fund, automate it, right? We're all about that automation, but two, break it into smaller numbers. Don't sit there and think, oh my goodness, $10,000 is a lot of money. Think about it as, hey, I can do $192 per week. I can hit that number. I can do $100 per week and hit 5,000. But resolution number three is create your own 52-week money challenge. All right, number four, I call this the spending, we're going to say, I was going to say splurge, but it's actually going to be the exact opposite. We want to go with more or less the best way to really remove spending. So it's the exact opposite of splurge. I don't know why splurge came to mind there. I think the word I was looking for is actually purge. We're going to call this the 3-day spending purge. I keep wanting to say splurge. It's not splurge. Do anything but splurge here. But on a purge, you are trying to pick out, ideally, I know it's easy from the guy that's talking through YouTube, and I know this is harder to do in real life. And I say that because I feel like we try to do this quite a bit and it's tough. This is also sometimes we think of dry January in terms of alcohol. Also, there could be dry Januaries in terms of budgeting, right? You just went through all this holiday spend. But the whole goal of resolution number four is that you are going to try to have at least one weekend per month where there is no excess spending. That's right. No Amazon, no trips to Target, right? If you're doing activities, you're trying to find free activities, right? Maybe you're going for a walk in the park. Maybe you're taking the kids somewhere where it's not linked to an actual expense. But if you can pick out one weekend per month, every single month, you'd be amazed on how this can affect your spending. And maybe it is a larger one. I kind of joked, right? That dry January, that's a very common trick in the personal finance world of trying to dramatically reduce spending in a certain month. Maybe you can also do that in the summer. Maybe you can do one, a little bit later in the year as well. But if you can add in these moments where you can try to purge excess spending, you will be amazed on how quickly that can build up. Again, if that's one weekend per month and you save an extra 500 in that one weekend, right? You get 12 weekends of that. All of a sudden, we're back to like $5,000 here. So you're trying to find areas where you can cut that spending, whether that's the weekend rule, maybe that's a month rule, but you add in some more months in there. But resolution number four, try to add some purge, not splurge, purge weekends where you're not spending as much on really anything. That's the key there, and you'll be amazed on how quickly that can build up. All right, resolution number 5. I want you to pull up your Outlook calendar, your Google Calendar right now, and add in 4 dates. We're going to call them quarterly dates, but these are money dates. If you're watching this and you're single, if you're watching this and you're married or you have a significant other, add 4 dates on your calendar where you all go schedule maybe a coffee date or a lunch date. I don't want to waste a dinner date on it. Maybe you do it at a dinner date, but try to block off an hour or two where you can sit down either yourself or with your significant other or spouse and walk through the big numbers, right? Go through your budget, go through your, if you're using any type of like a YNAB or a Monarch, any type of budgeting software, make sure you're not missing anything, right? Make sure you're seeing money coming in, money going out. Are there any areas to improve? The one thing I really want you to focus on here is subscription. We call them subscription leaks. See if there's any areas where you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot we even had that subscription. Or, yeah, we're using that, but are we really getting the most out of that? Look for areas to improve. At worst, you're going to take some time to sit there and get on the same page. Whether this is for yourself personally or whether this is with your spouse or significant other, it's really important. If you want to see like the number one reason for divorce, it's usually financial stressors. So if you can be on the same page financially, you don't have to both be CFOs, right? Usually each family will have a CFO, but having these money dates that take a few minutes, take an hour or two to review things, take a deep breath. What are our goals for the next quarter? Are we on track for that big trip in July or our next big ski trip in December of next year? Take time to block these off. I'm going to note quarterly. I know I've said this in other videos. I'll probably say it even next week in our budgeting video. Usually I like monthly reviews. Quarterly can still add a little bit of time where it kind of feels like overbearing to get into it and say like, wow, that's 3 months of data we got to review. So maybe a quick little maintenance check monthly on your own budgeting, and then sit down on a quarterly basis to kind of review those things. That's a good hack and habit to build in for your, not only 2026, but every year going forward after that. Number 6, the credit score. Goal here is to strengthen and improve your credit score in 2026. And I'm going to give you 3 tips here. First one I wrote down is credit limit increases. I will be honest, every time I say this, I have this cold sweat that drips down my neck because my fear is that when I tell you to increase your credit limits, that you're going to take it the wrong way and you think, bingo, more spending. That's not the goal. Most of you don't realize, with this will actually be number 2, that there's a credit utilization is a huge part of your credit score. And this means that if you have let's do easy math for me. Let's just say that you have a $1,000 credit limit. I know it's higher than that, but just use that. Usually, if you go above 30% of that, in this example, it would be $300, or maybe we'll do a $10,000 credit limit, $3,000, you actually can start to lower your credit score. And most are shocked by that. Most don't realize, wow, I was using it, but I didn't realize only 30% is having that big of an effect. But that's why your credit utilization, which is number 2, which I'll cover next, is so important. But how can you give yourself a little bit more wiggle room here, or to even maybe stay even further below that 30% number? Well, increase your credit limit. And you'd be surprised. Most will allow, I actually added some other notes in here for this one. Chase, American Express, Capital One almost always approve automatic increases if utilization is under 30% and on-time payments for the last 6 months. So it's not even that crazy. Sometimes you can do this through the chat and they'll actually increase that. These can be big jumps. The notes here that I had from another research is that you can see anywhere from a 40 to 120 point jump in your credit score. Usually takes about 30 to 60 days to see this kick in, right? There's a little bit of a lag on when they update that and it falls through, but this is a really important one. And then number 2, I kind of noted already, but your credit utilization, you need to pay attention to that number. You cannot be using your credit card up to the limits. You don't want to be anywhere close to the limits. So make sure you're watching that credit utilization. And then the other one I added on here, there's technically 2 services. One's called Experian Boost, and one is called Ultra FND. I'll give you the Experian Boost one here, kind of the notes I typed out. So this will allow you to link your bank and adds on-time rent, utility, phone, even Netflix payments to your Experian file. So this can actually boost your credit anywhere from, they noted in this article, about 13 to 27 points. And then the Ultra FND, which is also a free one through, I believe that's through credit unions and even Credit Karma will have this one. But this will also add rent and utility history to Equifax and TransUnion. So if you cover Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, you have pretty much the 3 main providers out there. This is a pretty quick bump. This one can happen pretty quickly, up to about 30 days, but anywhere from about 20 to 70 points. And if you're already sitting there with a great credit score of 800 plus, this is another way to boost it up. Why is credit score important? Well, credit score is linked to pretty much everything. You got to go take out a car loan, you go take out a mortgage, you go take out a student loan, right? They're all going to come back to this credit score. And the better your credit score, usually you're going to drive down your interest rate. Lower the interest rates, lower the cost to actually borrow that money. So in 2026, I want you to focus on increasing that credit score or even trying to fill that thing up, right? Get as high as you can. So number 6 is really boosting that credit score for 2026. All right, last but not least, the soft side of money. Resolution number 7, we got there. This is going to be the future you letter. That's right. You're going to take a few minutes to write down some goals. Write them down, type them up. I like writing them down, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, put it somewhere for this time next year. But write down some goals. What do you actually want to accomplish, right? We talked about this on why so many of these fail. We're so vague. We don't have systems in place. We just kind of, that'd be nice, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing follows through, right? By March, we even forget we said it. So your goal is to write this letter, maybe jot it down, right? So that you can all, like if you do seal the envelope, which I think is pretty cool. If you do seal the envelope, make sure it's also, you can track it somewhere as well, right? So this can be things like, hey, I want to have X amount of dollars in my emergency fund. I want to have enough saved to pay for our ski trip in January of 27, paid for in cash. I want to have X amount of dollars in the 529 plan. I just want to open up a 529 plan for my kid or kids. I want to start a backdoor Roth. I want to have at least 4 money dates this year by myself or with my spouse, significant other. Write down a few. I'm a big fan of 3s. I think 3 is always a good number. 3 big goals and then maybe a few other goals. But write those down, put the envelope somewhere. Again, if you're tracking actual money goals, see where you're at. I wouldn't base it on numbers. I wouldn't use like, I want to have $50,000 in my 401k plan. Here's why. Because if we have a bad market, you could have crushed your goals, but the actual stock market had an effect. So I would focus more on the savings goal. I want to max out my 403b. For the first time ever, I want to make sure I put the full $7,500 into my Roth IRA or my backdoor Roth IRA. I want to have $10,000 in my emergency fund. Use those types of funding goals as opposed to balance goals, especially for anything linked to markets that have volatility, stock markets, bond markets, Bitcoins, those types of things. That's a little bit harder for you to control. And then before you know it, next year the markets could turn around, right? And then it's well over your goals. So try to set funding goals. But future letter to yourself is resolution number 7 for our 7 to start your 2026. And there you have it. 7 financial resolutions for you to crush your 2026. And honestly, every year after that as well. So go through these 6, figure out the best ways to implement them. Write the future letter to yourself. If you have questions, comments, concerns, drop those in the comments below. If you have resolutions that you're going to add, drop those in the comments. Also, any other topics that you want us to build on in the future as we're continuing to build out our 2026 content calendar now, drop those down below as well. As always, thank you for hanging out with me for right around, we call it about 15 minutes, which is usually our sweet spot, right? If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so now. Again, thumbs up, spread this message, bell icon every time we release a new video. Next week, we dig into budgeting. As always, thanks again for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next video.